Kalau isi malugil sil selmora arugul ar belau mga rekel belau. Kung da sa tiagi del sil sa selak langar rigide sebe edel mo da suringi was en sel sil sel dililu tulngwa bluat. Iblo dilek digi del mga redra bluat. Mal sil sa reureng. Alui me widra ka akamang tal time. Itial el بالوضع مو الياق المودي كده المريض رقيب دي نقل بيوت التقوي سيلو مشرا ركسير كده تيرول داي تيرول كده عملات مريا تيرل أدل الفويس مريا مال كل ولديك ما قال ملك موكو متيال بلوة ما نمرين للا أسف إذا الكرة ما يسيسيوني ما رول نمرين الرول مال ما رمودر لهم أيوة الراقل el kita ngarabut mutmok kabluwa ma syuga ngarigit ma tiallo ke lak ngarigit kita malung larmud el sil bodo de armud do omri malu do mes ragel ku bam katmok le do mes ngarmada nei emrgo mal marmud sado ida el sil gagid el adat tirgel tira amral adram digel tom godong tilo se American Indians ya godong lo se milgra ram da society gamra indial meim to abelelul ada ngakrtir endi letak to asen abelelul ada rir ia blurir Indians tirganga ado do trilo se tamakasara digel o malt mer model mo banggedan kal Dr. Lee nganga pilgiblunga siringa mongoy urtial sirak langarngi na adra New York ngasel belura amrigel ga kakros belu asam rigel sel Seneca Indian nation mong akti syoka ngi enga tirgel semong malu tirgel toktang ra umsubela atugorakar ga gidel guru mo olngit lo se dibol madal waise se gida mal tengah ya Dr. Chris Kitalong engadang okertiang omes mo selbita ko mesri nga drai o indi ungil ngarngi Irene adar oror mga obengel mga sadoy nga adam belgrok esar mal mo atter mal masale Chris Kitalong gulngite sadoy bodol go orang bar den gede batay makma amar tigel loreng selosing di moto orang bar tiang ya uriula Irene la actuel mo o samurai ringi today is our 27th anniversary of independence.
Happy Independence Day, people of Palau.
El Palau has gone a long way. You know. It's a small country like those American Indian nations in U.S. But we have survived. And we have survived. We went through a rather difficult and bloody times to become independent. 2 of our presidents had died. 3 were shot, were killed. Our national government building was burned down. And we went through, about 10 years, very difficult situation to become independent. And it was a difficult time, but we made it. For the last 27 years, we've been, independent, sovereign nation. And that's the price we paid, but, I'm sure the American Indians who are watching this or with their country folk here will, yes. So it's, after hundreds of years of being dominated and colonized people, we rose up. And, I think we're blessed and fortunate that we have you here, Dr. Lee. So with the short time that we have this morning, we'd like to hear from you. And we're very happy that you're here. Just so that I tell you a little history. I've been to Wounded Knee. And I know Russell Means. I invite him to a conference in Guam, a sovereignty conference in 1982. He was my guest. And your story is interesting. I know you cannot tell the story here, but I think I look at your background. I'm impressed of what you have done as an American Indian to succeed in the white man system. If you look at the Roman history, Caesar, when he went to Gaul in Northern Europe, when they conquered it, he has this expression. He said, "I came, I saw, I conquered." So you came to Palau, you saw, and then what? No issues.
Well, thank you again for having me here. It really is a pleasure, and especially to be able to reach so many Palauans on this trip. I feel like last time I was here and I was able to just see the country, and I immediately fell in love with it, with the people and the similarities between our cultures. And so the fact that I was able to come back just a few months later, hopefully it won't be the last time, and I'll be able to return more frequently and continue to work alongside Dr. Kitalong and others as we move forward. But as far as a little bit more about my background, I think we wanted to discuss our system, right? Our system of government and how we as Native people have helped shape the U.S. modern government that we have. And so much like the Palauan government, we have our matrilineal clans. We have a president, which we call Tarodaho, so that's how you say president in our language. And then we have our senators, which we call sachem chiefs. And then we also have our House of Representatives, but those are our clan chiefs as well. But above all of them are our clan mothers. So they're the ones that are actually the final decision makers, or can decide to go to war back when we were a warring nation, but also can veto or void decisions made by chiefs and even our Tarodaho, or president.
They control the chiefs like the Palauan women, or no?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and the U.S. government mimics exactly ours, but lacks the clan mothers in their system. And I think that's where they have maybe failed over the generations.
Wow. Thanks. And Dr. Kitalong, can you tell us what's your role with Dr. Lee?
Dr. Lee, of course, I'm last as a designee. I got JCM committee to help link research and education and culture in Palau. And she was the ideal candidate. She's not a tribal person, but also a doctor in virology, I believe, biochemistry, virology. So she's helping us design our labs so that we can reach a higher standard in education and make sure that we maintain cultural relevance. Dr. Lee also runs high school programs to improve science and math within the Native American tribes. So we're trying to link up our programs and scale up our CRE facilities, MAPCC, to handle higher science and move people towards cultural relevant science.
Yeah, Dr. Lee, I think you American Indians or native people, the native people are experiencing this. It looks like the world is getting smaller, and the big dominating countries are dominating, and we're like sinking. It looks like the Americans, the British, Anglo-Saxon, U.S., and then now the Chinese. They seem to have these two competing cultures. And I'm told that in 2098, practically all the language in the world will be established except English and Chinese. So how do we survive? I mean, in terms of cultural preservation, how do we do it, like, when you study, to survive as well? Because Palawan culture, to me, it's like, sinking.
Yeah.
Palawan, because it's very important that the Palawans tune into what you're about to say. Ngirmang, mudulong nga katimre nga sule la Dr. Chris Kitalong, lengiyaw luay sel wasenggal Dr. Lim lo mga taturam asil belaw mong uula kwasea mo takang le Chris ngungkal toktangal mem kim kora mo at atu arwa mudulong mangirmang leng ngkal toktang amil nga taturam asil belaw malklo tutele like losout el alsil sengia 27 Independence Day kita adbela ngirmang kamringel wase kita mararingi kita independent tunti kita kampak kita marata merikel engkai kita ratila malungil understand ungil madanglisel bloringi our Native Americans elabot tirgal kuk adarama ngabarda el molmo kora mixer tial culture tir el al tutay malmo aisel wasenguk wangaray ke rail sa etal kora mo tiakato obesa circle ibela orkid Michael Clissy illegal culture rikit.
One of the sayings that we have is, we were here before the colonizers and we will be here after. And
you found them in yourself.
Right, and Native people are resilient just overall, right? No matter what they hit us with, we always bounce back and we come back, stronger sometimes. And I think learning to use technology to our advantage is what is helping us to thrive. 10, 15 years ago, people in the United States didn't even realize Native Americans still lived there. We still existed. We still had our traditional cultures. But now with, social media and other media platforms, people are learning about us more. And I think we're starting to use that to our advantage. And language revitalization has been ongoing within our tribal communities because language is so important, right? If you have your language, you have your culture still.
Yes.
And so a lot of other communities that have started to lose the elders that hold that language, are using that technology now to create new programs, software, so we can teach our next generation.
Silol going nga malklol tutlelo siya tigingit ula sil klaadrigid maklebelaw kita angara sa tigingit al sukum tigingit amat mat malklol tutlelo el aldo special besel el tretar omrul mauldas egal do spe lang el momlisi aiga malklol tutlelo Bidol kor kamilo sa mal klotla sa kang legedan tomo ar legetra atkor belaw le sukum gdori di tiang en kagid ngalo ay sigid lo sa tamal hindi se eda specie mal matngelo sa to kang leged wa commission dal crucial direct tedob ang ba tedob gidin kagid pal mo ko tokor belaw mal ar legeda mal subel mo. Okay, thank you. Little lecture about language, pronunciation of language. Okay. So in terms of actually, so what do we do? What do we do to preserve the language? I mean, what are the, using the technology to
So here, many more speak the language than back in my community. Even though my tribe is similar in numbers and the number of people is Palau, we don't have very many that speak the language fluently because we lost it. However, some of the efforts that are ongoing right now is one of my friends, his work is using a program like Rosetta Stone. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's to teach language with a computer. And so that's one way of preserving the language because we're losing the elders, but we're also teaching it in the schools.
So our people in U.S., in Guam and all this, they can use that program to learn our language.
Yes, they're trying to get it. Navajo or Dene is available in Rosetta Stone. So that's one language that you can learn.
And tell me again, you're from Senegal Nation in New York? Which part of New York?
So near Niagara Falls. So from Niagara Falls down into the Pennsylvania
And you're
area.
about 20,000.
About, yeah, but most of them don't live in that area. About half live in that area, and the other half are spread around.
Can we go through you to establish a treaty between Palau Nation and
not me.
Seneca Nation?
I'll connect you with our leadership, our president.
Ngirmang aldir ka lulu ay seringin kal Dr. Lee kintong okla wase sel ngel redil nga bebula Statue of Liberty. A White House. Ngel redil nga bebula White House ra US White House. Seneca woman.
Wow.
Dia kal ambra ringin ngel redil sel tribe ringi. Oh.
How did they make the statue?
So when the U.S. government was being formed and they mimicked our government, it was a tribute to our tribe. And the clan mother was so important in this process, so they created a statue for her. Her name was Jakunsa. And so her statue sits on top of the U.S. Capitol building. Yeah, when you see the statue of her, it looks like a white woman, but it really is supposed to be Jakunsa.
And I think now you have two native Indians who are native people who are members of U.S. Congress, and then you have a secretary of the department.
Right. So Secretary Deb Haaland was one of the first elected congresswomen, along with Sharice Davis, who's from Kansas. But now Secretary Haaland is Congresswoman Haaland is the Secretary of the Department of the Interior.
So she's in charge of us. I mean, we come under the Department of Interior. Wow,
yes, and she's from Laguna Pueblo, which is in New Mexico, and I have friends from that Pueblo. I've gone to some of their traditional feast days as well.
Wow. How many nations? How many Indian nations in the U.S. altogether?
There's 573 right now, all unique, with different language, different traditions.
500?
Dire kalulu ay sa Ngirmang nga kalwase language tir lumo 3 original languages emberkong over 573. Al time letam la mo batokol tribes. Diesel malu liram le 3 original languages. It's the same in Palau. We have dialects also from Southwest Islands, but we have one original Palauan that has a different dialect.
So it must have taken like thousands of years for these 3 languages to branch out to 500.
Yes, and then merging with other
So
cultures.
your history, like to your, when was your people first settled North America? Thousands of years?
Thousands of years ago, right?
Like our history, like 4,000 years.
I think at least 10,000, because you can see the cave dwellings like in the southwest, and where the water used to be really high, they can estimate the years that they used to reside there.
Why, how come the native people, they look like, almost like Chinese, Asians, kind of small eyes? Is there some relation? Or?
It depends, because some, with the migration pattern across Alaska to Canada and down into California, and then also across Canada to New York area. And then you had some coming up from South America as well.
Ang mga ethnic studies abay mlaw ay sulwase Kital Pacific Islanders abay kmal ancestors sergit kidi matir kay gidia medalo si siwara our ancestors sergit mar Native Americans.
Yeah, and some of our communities were agrarian or farmers, right? So my communities were established for a long time, so we farmed and we had access to food, and we grew bigger. We didn't have to run around on horseback or try to find our food as much, so we grew bigger up in the northeast and the northwest. Versus in the south, they were still more the hunter-gatherer, so they're smaller.
Small people. Interesting, yeah.
El asel mal klo tutelel rangad Dr. Lee awase tial el syukang mesel culture tir akmalo si siungi metial likargit el matrilineal to nga nga kabli da tirma tulungal ka makablil mong paitirgal yardilam sisi mong paitirgal BSL government Amerikel amle emrura government Amerikel lo mo alcohol mo masubertial lo reading system artiral tadi ulo beslo tungisel tutulwa sengel clan mother. May lagi dal other belar el Independence Day mudalong kada matingel wase kita dir ko kampak kita mamarikel makadamaral suad al independent ting mal awul magidira kan soma matakter lilme mudalong mangirmang wase lakadobe kita other belar sel klei belar kita malakari dal waseng maral klei belar kita angkel talat madala lakabli la adira kal maklog tutalel.
Dr. Lee, I think the Palawan women have excessive power. You know, when I'm 71 years old, and when my sister talked to me as if he's talking to her kid, you know, and I had to give. And then when my mother was alive, and when I was already married, I have children, wives, and all. But when she talked to me, I have to keep quiet, just listen. I cannot even talk back. And but unlike our children now, my children, they talk back to me and they argue with me and they don't follow what I say. But yeah, it's interesting as you observe in the women conference. All the Palawan leaders in the last day or so, they all paraded to go before the women and they speak. They express their opinion. The women question them, which is actually it's un-Palawan. So, but it's a Madalo ay siya kadam amo siya may ustata program dito ay sila set ay gelu ay sa minister wa sa odosong moringia about race nakabus ngira six story moringia.
Kultur kang Ngirmang o ang kaya korang maldir ka mangira mlal plakat tangrang tiyagiran mo na Dr. Naomi Lee waseng ngaringarangal ka school belaw mal asoril musuba to ko ra health ma science mang agi ko ra maloreng alwasel so kung te express sa interest tir ang ladire kal sabir lo ko reach out to mara PCC all tang clear Dr. Kitalong mang mosabel connect tir mara Dr. Naomi Lee. I am pretty sure there are a lot of students in Palau who are interested in the sciences, studies especially of health now that we have enduring COVID and all that, and also not only health but other sciences. Perhaps they can reach out to you through Dr. Kitalong and PCC if they can be connected to you since we know now that you're doing a lot of programs for the high school students in the U.S. for your tribes. And it's a real pleasure to know you, that you really connect with us, even though you're a visitor. I feel like you're already a Palawan. So welcome again, and it's really nice that we're able to interview you a little bit on this very special occasion, our 27th Independence Day of the Republic of Palau.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, students can always reach out to me. I hope as they continue on their path, they realize that science and traditional knowledge are not separate things. They are the same thing, right? We are the original scientists of our land, and it's remembering to bring that back into the classroom with language or with the traditional medicines or the foods, and not always relying on the U.S. educational system because they don't always have it right. But again, thank you again for having me.
Chris, I think you need to come to the radio station to explain more about this project you're doing with Dr. Lee.
Sunday, and then PCC. And collaboration with NAU, Sensei, assistant professor at Northern Arizona University. Mukpevira students sa Mamang Sibel Morse, Musube, ngara research lobongge. Nga director doktang Musube igal COVID-19 vaccination studies. Hemal research ni ma morula igal vaccines. kamam ada lang research diri kal lol si sak lang kung subay kan tokora science with relevance in mera culture kamam. So man that's our main relationship. Make sure science is linked to our culture, so the value of culture is presented in everyday work that we do.
Mumsa, malwaise Irene me tergaum asmarital program rigi de modesty tial sil sergi kudo gorit rigi da sering lungu maltmarungu del kidel tiang bolo dengar arbela lorren sabset gide del elasis en daqdi dol de warungu de dorren sa sound ma do ngit mot ekram do shwedo setia gide del mo bekesis do mdasurungi mel bedebne sekala magaranga mo ileak melisi tial clever laur git ma pisi edel el blue ileak al MCC gide mo didar ngude mo blagar ngude kirel wase bekel sis do urorngil wase kada magaru lid mo MCC al MLC tial luat ma syukan lagi ma lugalak langar lagi
man baral to ko yang Ngirmang jak me kultur keto lulu atamel Dios ay kimral tingu tial table tirgal maliwek keringi mo makaroku e mal dimrenga sule mel kirel tial beluma mara pelur belau madirek other belau el alsil seng mal close to el sil seruba kaleng 27th Independence Day masel waisel lol koringa Ngirmang akmal melulu uljolingit tulwase mga sukamam rallo masereng maklangario reng madirek el telam el motiakim tim moilir el alsil sepay ki bobek el sil selkim modengel wase tial digasam el beluma ma obils kamam el ngaringa ul mga sukamam malagi bo mobes sa segi tiat klibelar kamam ebol masisi arang mam el gut makliti el belumam el kmal mamral ileak el ngi amral independent el belul el tokubet sa tokoringi el tokubet sa syukang ringi tokubet sa adringi may garo kul klangal tanga tarada maut malblabas kamam mo pom ngusu kamam meruba kal momudu el gut mokla e waisel lol koringa Dr. Naomi Lee ma Dr. Kitalong alwase mal klo tutele larngal kam maral mormadat el direk el mosu baigal tokoira asain sa legal tokoira science amal din lang arngi rigit el vela rangaramon mer elang diwaisel tribes ra aigel guk tribes nga Native Americans at tokoira science akmal Dios isiuni maigal tokoira klibelaw maklabelaw rigit may kaigid el tilterul toktang am la supdamam magimal mga lwol maigal aldadu emal mululu ulwase mga sukamam magibomda karokuy al other belaw el alsil sel maral mormadamam el diagi mobes ay kaigid el klibelaw kamam maktogubet el klangal tangat el problemas kamam magimolmol al mga tmok may karokuy amal gidi morang asulem el girel le direk lolngi taklangal tangat el alsil sumtilungi la rokul tokoy tialiang at kamal masaw le rubak malakam kasakla ekiguk mobile mo kabsangay kamal masaw la ki melulu ngarang klel ay Jesus Kristo ni osabalam amen.
Lawadi kesedraram uod lara rubak kal Dios